Hey, Dominic, are you ready to begin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Just a reminder, guys, please keep your microphones and your cameras off. Thank you very much. Any questions, you can put them in the chat box to the right-hand side. Okay.
Cool. Okay. So thank you guys for turning up. So just sort of briefly to introduce myself, my name is Dominic. I am I never know how to answer this question. I work in cybersecurity, but that sounds very cool. What I actually do is sort of make sure that IT systems are functioning sort of in the way that they should be, because a lot of businesses and a lot of public sector organizations don't really know exactly how it is that their IT systems are functioning because they just don't necessarily have the expertise in-house. So what I do is I come along and I say this is working properly or this isn't working properly, yeah, that's kind of it. But sort of my official title is both sort of information security analyst, and sort of my second hat that I wear is as the London Apprenticeship Lead, which is kind of why I'm speaking to you guys today. So on top of that, I'm also a qualified accountant. So I'm going to speak a little bit to you guys about accounting, and I'm going to speak a little bit to you guys about how you can get a job in a firm like mine. Because obviously, I'm sure you guys are all aware. It's quite a difficult time at the moment to be sort of looking for apprenticeships or looking for graduate type roles. So yeah, so the company I work for is a business called Grant Thornton, and so we are one of the largest accountancy firms in the world. I think internationally we're the sixth largest. In the UK, I think we're the fifth. I get confused. I forget. It's somewhere down in the slide somewhere. So yeah, but we offer a range of different services. So as I say, I work in sort of information security, but there's lots of other things that we do as well. We do sort of corporate finance type roles, which is kind of the mergers and acquisitions type stuff that you see in films like Wall Street and that kind of stuff, or The Wolf of Wall Street as well. Obviously, you guys are probably a bit more familiar with. So yeah, we do that kind of role as well. We do external audit work, which is where we assess the financial statements of big companies and we say whether or not they're functioning effectively. So you look at things like Carillion, obviously collapsed not very long ago. That's quite a good example of an auditor not doing their job properly. Fortunately, that wasn't us, but there were some other ones. Which Grant Thornton has been involved in, but that's the same across the board at the moment. There's a lot of different businesses right now who are really struggling with this. So yeah, whenever there's a big corporate collapse, the auditors normally get blamed, and we do some of that work. Okay, so I'm just going to speak to you guys briefly about who we are. As I say, provide a little bit more of a detailed overview, and then how could you kind of do what it is that we do, and how could you think about sort of applying for a job at a firm like mine. So, okay, yeah. So this is just a brief overview. So there's more than 200 partners in the UK, 100 member firms of Grant Thornton UK. Yeah, 4,500 employees, and the sixth largest auditor in the UK, as I was saying. So just for you guys, just so you know, all of the sort of professional services firms in the UK function on a partnership basis. So I know when I first joined, I had no idea what that meant. Essentially, the partners are the people who own the business. So if you look at a company like Coca-Cola, they have shareholders, right? And the shareholders own the business. When a company, there's a partnership, a limited liability partnership, there are no shareholders. There are only the people who are the partners who have effectively bought into the firm. So the way that you become a partner is you get invited to join the partnership, and you have to pay a certain amount of money to join. So I think with Grant Thornton, it's something like a couple of £100,000 in order to join. So you get a big loan, but then obviously you get a share of the profits of the business. So in years when the firm does well, you can make a lot of money from it, and that's essentially how partnership works. Something that I certainly didn't know before I started. So that's just a good little bit of knowledge for you there. This is just an example of some of the places where we work. So as I say, Grant Thornton is an international company. So yeah, we function in whatever it is, more than 135 countries around the world. This map is a little bit out of date. I was updating this map recently and picking out some of these examples down here, like Singapore and Malaysia, just because I thought they were interesting. But actually, you'll see on there that we're suggesting that we have a presence in Libya, and that is not true anymore. That was true prior to the revolution, whenever it was 2011. But this map hasn't since been updated. But apart from that, everything on this map is accurate. So yeah, we obviously massive international coverage, sort of all over the world. So what kind of services do we offer? So on a broad level, there are three different sort of service areas that we sort of make our money through. And that's the first one is audit and assurance, the second one is tax, and the third is advisory. So audit and assurance is kind of like I was saying before, it's providing sort of the owners of a business, so the owners of a company like I don't know, let's say Coca-Cola or whatever, Adidas or something like that. Every year they have to have an audit of their financial statements, which is where somebody else, somebody external to them, comes along and says what is in their financial report is effectively correct. So every year companies have to publish an annual report which details how well the business is done, and they have to file their accounts with a government effectively. And they do this so that they can show, what their earnings are, how much they've made, what their assets are, what their debts are, this kind of thing. And this allows sort of the wider market. So that allows kind of like you and me, if we wanted to buy shares in a company, to know sort of what's going on with the business. And what we do is we say, we get those financial reports, we get those annual statements that other companies make. We then review them and we say, yes, this is correct, or no, this isn't correct. Sort of roughly. It's not quite absolutely correct, but it's we say, this is about 95% accurate is what we aim for. So we say, yes, this is effectively okay. This is true and fair is the correct sort of phrase for it. And in exchange for doing that, they pay us some money every year. So every firm over a certain size, in the UK, it's 11.3 million, has to have an annual audit. So every year, that's something they do. Now, the key thing about this for you guys, and the key thing to remember, is that this is kind of the best way into accountancy. So the vast majority of jobs that are going out there, sort of as an accountant, are doing this kind of audit role, and it's kind of like fundamental accounting. It's really getting down into the numbers and understanding exactly what's going on with the business. And sort of when we talk a little bit later on about the different accountancy qualifications you can do, most of them you will do whilst studying to become an auditor of some sort or some kind of assurance professional. Yeah, okay, so then tax. Now, I don't work in tax, so I'm not a massive expert, but tax is is quite a big sort of big part of what the firm does. It makes up, I think, about a third of the revenues of the firm, so it's quite large. And effectively, it's helping companies to be compliant. So if you have a firm like, again, say like Adidas, which is obviously based in Germany, they have to comply with German tax law, but also because they sell a lot of clothes, a lot of shoes, whatever, in the UK, they also have to sell. They also have to account for UK tax law. So what we do is we help companies like that who have really complex, sort of major, complex sort of tax structures. We help them to manage that and to make sure that they're doing it in the correct way. The question I almost always get is, okay, but do you guys help companies to avoid tax, like the Panama Papers? And the truth is that not really. That's kind of not really what we're set up to do. If you want to go to a firm that does something like that, you need to go to quite a specific firm. So obviously, if you go to a firm in Panama and you say, I want to, can you help me to avoid paying US tax? They'll say, yeah, sure, why not? But obviously in the UK, that's kind of, it's not really our specialism. The hassle that comes with it and the pressure that you get from sort of outside groups is not worth it. Basically, it's not worth the money for most companies based in the UK. That's not to say that companies in the UK don't do it, but as a firm, we don't really think it's worth it. And then from an advisory side, this kind of covers everything else. This is the other sort of probably about half of what the firm makes. Slightly less than half of what the firm makes in terms of its revenue. And this is basically everything. If you can think of anything which involves people selling their time, so that's all professional services services is at its heart, is people selling time. So we don't sell trainers, we don't sell lights, we don't sell homeware, we don't sell food. What we sell is our time, and we charge out our time at a significant premium. And this is everything else. So advisory covers anything which would involve me selling my time for to help you out. So when I go out to a client, they say to me, right, can you have a look at X, Y, and Z? And they are just asking for my opinion. And for that, we charge them money. And that's effectively everything that comes under advisory. So as I say, that includes stuff like M&A, that includes stuff like what I do, which is cybersecurity. That includes stuff like wealth management. So we can advise companies on how to manage their wealth, how to manage their assets. We can advise companies on how to manage their HR departments. So if they have a lot of people. So right now we're getting loads and loads of work in terms of sort of HR departments worrying about people working from home and saying, what are our risks with people working from home? And so that's, we can sort of say, okay, well, we can help you with managing that. And that's a large part of what comes under that kind of advisory umbrella. But honestly, I think there are more than 70 different service lines, and I don't know all of them off by heart. But yeah, it's massive. The advisory sort of department is absolutely massive, and as I say, covers all sorts of things from business consulting to public sector consulting to everything else in between, valuations, all kinds of different good stuff. So how could you do it? This is kind of the bit that I think is a bit more interesting for you guys. So the key thing that I want you guys to kind of take away from this is that I think, whatever kind of age you are, if you're kind of in year 11, if you're in lower sixth, upper sixth, if you're in year 7, it is never too soon to start thinking about where do I want to work and what do I want to do. Because the people who end up with really high paying jobs when they are coming out of university, the people who end up working for your Goldman Sachs, who end up working for your Allen and Overy, which is the biggest law firm in the world, those people, they thought about it when they were, 15, and they said, how am I going to get there? And they had a plan. And I think if there's one thing that I want you guys to take away from this session, it's what can I do? How can I put my plan together? And I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of advice on how you can put a plan together and how you can start thinking about that. Because I wish that I'd done it when I was your age. I put my plan together when I was sort of 20 years old, and I was in my second year at university, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to get a job. But actually, if I thought about it and if I'd planned much earlier, I would have saved myself an awful lot of money and time and hassle. So it's definitely worthwhile you guys thinking about it now. So in terms of starting out, sort of putting together a bit of a plan for how it is, for what it is that you want to do and where do you want to work. These are sort of the 9 questions here, 8 questions for the things that you might want to think about. And I would say this is a good starting point. If you go through and you answer all of these questions, you will have the start of a very good plan in terms of what you're gonna do with the rest of your life. So yeah, what sort of work do I want to do? What kind of clients do I want to work with? Do I want to specialize? These are sort of quite broad questions, but they're questions that can really help you. When I say do I want to specialize, what I mean is, do you want a job which straight away kind of is very like almost like a surgical point at which you say, right, okay, this is exactly what I want to do, and I want to do this. I know that I'm certain I want to do this kind of for the rest of my life. Or do you want something which is a little bit more broad based? So, for example, a lot of people who want to be lawyers, they decide, I want to be a lawyer. Okay, well, there's about 8 different types of law at a very high level. Which one of those do you want to do? Do you want to specialize, or do you think to yourself, I just want to be a lawyer? Okay, how much more can you build on that? So if you say to yourself, okay, I want to be a commercial lawyer, you say, okay, right, and I want to work in London. Okay, well then that there are maybe 20, 30 big companies that you could start applying for right now, looking for work experience placements. Looking for kind of online events and stuff. Tons of companies right now doing online events, and you could get involved with those straight away. And at your age, you could be showing that I understand what's going on. I understand the jobs market. I understand that if I want to get a really, really well-paying job, I need to be switched on already. So I mean that's kind of what I mean by do I want to specialize. So for me, for example, though I'm an accountant, as I say, I also work in cybersecurity. Now cybersecurity is very much a specialism, but when I became an accountant, I thought actually I don't know what I want to do yet, so I'm going to be an accountant because I can do lots of other things with that. So I could have gone into finance in terms of mergers and acquisitions. I could have gone into finance in terms of wealth management. I could have gone into a sort of more straightforward management accounting type role. But I decided actually no, I want to be an accountant, but I also want to be an IT expert. And in that way, I managed to balance having sort of an initial quite a broad understanding and quite a broad level of knowledge in terms of just being an accountant, but then managing to sort of to narrow that down and to specialize in both accounting and IT, which gives me a really specific specialism. So that's kind of what I mean by specialised. Where do I want to work is obvious. Do you want to work in London? I assume most of you do. The thing to remember about London is that London is very competitive. So everybody in the UK generally wants to work in London. So you have to be switched on. You have to be on the ball, and that's okay. London pays more money than anywhere else in the UK, so that's why people want to work here. But you have to just be aware of that and sort of bear in mind that if you decided instead, actually I want to work in I don't know, Milton Keynes or something, the competition will be much less stiff because there are far fewer people there going for still quite a large number of jobs. Do I want to work overseas? Do I want to travel overseas? Again, if that's something you're looking for, then I know a lot of people like that. Then there's a lot of opportunities to do that with lots of different firms. So again, that's something to consider, and that'll help you to narrow down what it is that you want to do. Does the culture feel like a good fit? This one's a little bit more difficult to find out, but if you just kind of read through a company's website, if you read about all the things that they're saying, then you can kind of start to get a sense of, is this company a good fit for me? I know that when I first sort of went about joining professional services firms, I definitely tried to get a sense of the culture just by the things that they focus on their website, on their kind of careers portals. What is it that they're really trying to share with you? What is it they're trying to explain? And that can give you a bit of an idea about the culture of the firm. How much do I want to earn? Again, important to think about. My sort of answer when I was your age was just as much as possible, and that's fine. But the thing you need to bear in mind is that if you want to be a teacher, you're going to have to accept that you will earn less than somebody who wants to be an accountant. And if you think to yourself, actually, I couldn't handle that, I couldn't handle going off and seeing all my friends go off and become accountants and make twice as much money as I do, then maybe you need to think about not being a teacher. Not to say that not being a teacher is great. Both my parents were teachers, and it's fine. It's a hard life, and you don't get paid as much money as you should do. So think about that. Think about those kind of things in advance. And money obviously does come into it. Money obviously is important. And then finally, what do you really want out of your career? This is again is a really key question. What is it that you're looking to get? Are you looking to do some work that is worthwhile? In which case, working for a company like working for an organization like Greenpeace, or becoming like a I don't know, like a charity worker or whatever is probably for you. If you decide that actually you want to go and make as much money as possible, then you can go and work for Barclays, but they might not sort of be doing such fantastic work. You might find yourself working on I don't know, arms deals or something. Probably not, but it's the kind of thing that you need to bear in mind. That the kind of things that you want out of your career can actually play quite a big role in your sort of happiness throughout the rest of your life. So that's really important to consider as well. So these are kind of the two tracks which we offer as Grant Thornton. So there's two sort of ways in, as it were. The first one is to come in as a apprentice straight out of school. So you leave, kind of finish your sixth form, and then come and join a firm like ours, and you don't go to university, but you do 5 years, effectively 5 years of training, at which time you come out of that at the end, and you have a professional qualification, which is the equivalent to a master's degree. Lots of the questions that I get, particularly when I've come to your school before, is from people saying, my parents wouldn't let me not go to university, and that's fine, but that's very much a 20th century point of view. And obviously it's up to you, but I really wish that I hadn't gone to university, because I could have saved myself about £50,000, which is a lot of money. But I also, more than that, I could have been earning money from when I was 19, and it's a good whack. It's a good amount of money when you first join the firm. So I would definitely say it's worth thinking about, because you can save yourself a huge amount of debt, which again will have a big impact on the rest of your life. But you can also start making money quite early. Now, the way that it works is you spend 2 to 2.5 years sort of after your A levels studying for a level 4 apprenticeship scheme. This is a 3-stage qualification. Again, this is the AAT, which is a professional qualification, and it's the equivalent of a degree. So you study through that, and the whole time you're doing that, you're getting paid, and you're working the whole time. And then you do that, and then, as I say, after 2 to 2.5 years, you then sort of move on to doing your sort of your master's level qualification, which is the ACA or ACCA at most firms. Now, those in total, for most people, they take about 5 years. So if you think about it, if you leave school when you're 18, you can be qualified by the time you're 23. Now, I'm 26 and I qualified this year. So you could be fully qualified and earning the same money that I'm on now when you're 23. So I think it's a really good deal. And all the people who I know who've done this, I just wish I was in their position because they are much younger than me. You know, they're kind of 23 years old and they're earning a really good amount of money. Being fully ACA qualified, and they've already got 5 years experience. It's just brilliant. It's just a really, really good deal, in my opinion. So yeah, this is definitely something to think about. The normal sort of way that a lot of people tend to do it still is via the graduate route. So that's where you go to university and then you finish university after 3 years, then you step in and just do the ACA. So then you don't do an AAT, you don't do that kind of initial preparatory bit, you just do an ACA qualification. Or an ACCA qualification. Those two things are the same. You hear about these things quite a lot, ACA, ACCA, if you're thinking about being an accountant. But actually, they're essentially the same thing. It's just two different bodies who do the same kind of qualification. All the content is effectively the same. So then graduates come in, you do one of those qualifications, and then you end up sort of finishing that after normally about 3 years. I did mine in about 2.5, but it's average for it to be about 3 years. And then the big thing that makes a big difference, the reason why it's really good to have these kinds of qualifications is that it's a passport into lots and lots of different jobs. So because not many people every year do these qualifications sort of globally, there's always a shortage of accountants. There's never enough people who have this knowledge, who have this understanding. And that's reflected if you look at something like the FTSE 100, obviously the 100 biggest companies in the UK, about 50% of the CEOs of those companies have some kind of accountancy qualification. And that's just sort of a bit of a demonstration of the kind of expertise that it gives you and the kind of places that accountants end up. So it's really, really good. It's really strong, and it gives you a floor on your earnings where in London you won't be earning less than £45,000. Sort of no matter what firm you're with, whether that's a massive firm or a tiny firm, the chances are that if you have an ACA qualification, you won't be earning less than £45,000. And that's why people do it, because it makes it really safe. It's a really, really safe career where, even if you make a massive mistake and you're never any good at your job, you can still earn really good money. So yeah, that's the two kind of ways in. And that's a bit of an overview of why it's really good to get an accountancy qualification. Now, obviously, I am biased. I have an accountancy qualification, but it definitely has worked for me. Okay, this is more about how you guys can go through kind of the application process, and I want to spend a little bit of time sort of focusing on this. Now, obviously, at the moment, COVID-19 times, we are only doing everything digitally. I've been working from home for the past sort of 5 months or so, since almost the start of the year. And that's meaning that everything is being done online. So I've had to change this up a little bit just to give you a bit of a different idea about exactly what it looks like at the moment. But we are still recruiting, and a lot of firms are still recruiting, albeit there are probably fewer jobs available, obviously, because of the uncertainty. So yeah, so all the way through after your interviews, you always get some feedback from us as a firm. Okay, so if we just look at step one initially, so this is completion of an online application form. So this is applicable to most kind of firms that you'll see these days. You almost always have to complete an online application form. Some companies still use kind of an old sort of cover letter and CV type thing, but honestly, not very many. For entry-level roles, it is mostly an online application form. Often they want a copy of your CV. Not always, but often. The best piece of advice I can give you here is if they do want a copy of your CV, please get it checked. You have resources at your school to help you to check these things. And the number of times that I see students send me CVs which are badly laid out, or there are some mistakes. It's not quite written correctly. The format isn't quite right. This kind of stuff. There are people at your school I know who can help you to clear this up and to make this a bit easier. So just definitely get it checked, because obviously if I'm looking at a CV that isn't particularly well written, that suggests to me that this person hasn't really spent very much time thinking about this or sort of committing to this role. So it's just a little bit of a negative sort of on your application. So I would definitely say just get that checked, please, as your primary sort of first point of call. Step 2, online tests. So as I say, again, for most roles, most entry-level roles, online tests are the norm these days. Almost always numerical will come up, and situational judgment tests. Sometimes verbal reasoning and non-verbal reasoning aren't there. Non-verbal reasoning is quite fun. I always quite like them. They're the ones we have to spot patterns. But often firms don't do them anymore. I only know a couple of firms who still do them, which is a shame. But situational judgment tests and numerical reasoning tests will definitely come up. For numerical, there are loads of resources online, and I mean tons of resources online. All you have to do is Google it. If you just Google numerical judgment tests or numerical psychometric tests or anything like that, there are tons and tons of them online, and you can do them really easily. So yeah, just practice, because if you go into it and it's the first time you've done maths in, a couple of years or whatever, if you didn't do it at A level, they can be quite hard. But actually, it's almost always kind of the same types of questions. So if you know how to do them, then you can pass those fairly easily. Situational judgment tests are a bit of a pain, because they are trying to see if you are a good fit for the company. And obviously, before you work at the company, it's hard to know, because you just don't know what it is they're looking for. So the only piece of advice I can give on these is just read on the website, try and find out a little bit what the company is like and what they're probably looking for, and just don't take it personally. If you get rejected after a situational judgment test, it's not your fault. It's just, that's just what the company is looking for. When I was doing these, I failed maybe 7 or 8 of them before I passed one on the situational judgment tests, and they're just really hard, because the goalposts are not clear. So yeah, but just you might get lucky and you find sort of like the right place for you straight away, but don't take it personally if you don't. It's not a criticism of you. It's just something that firms are looking for. It's just something that they want. So yeah, I would definitely say that numerical tests practice. For situational judgment tests, sort of just do your best. Right, and then the first interview, with Grant Thornton, this could be a Skype or a telephone interview, and just some general tips here on telephone interviews or Skype interviews. So sometimes, you might get some companies which ask for you to do like a recorded session where they ask you a couple of questions and then you have 3 minutes to record an answer, or 2 minutes, often 3 minutes. The key tip here, as you can see in that second bullet point, is just to read up about the business. If you know what this company is like, and you know the kind of things that, the kind of work that they do, the kind of things that they're looking for from people, which you can all get from their website, and if you know the kind of sort of culture, the kind of identity that they want to have, then these are actually quite easy. Answering these questions is quite straightforward, because they kind of tell you online, they kind of tell you on the website, this is what we want you to talk about. This is what we want you to be aware of, because this is what we care about. And then it's up to you to show that you understand that and that you care about the same things that the company does. So yeah, just be sort of reading up about the company, read about what they do, and also just be prepared for common interview questions. Now, either you can ask some, whatever kind of sort of people you have to help you, like careers advisors at school, or you can ask, Google about common interview questions, but they will always be things like, tell us about a time you had to work in a team, tell us about why you want to work at this company. These kinds of questions come up all of the time. And it's really important that you have a strong answer, because effectively, if you can say, this is why I want to work at this company, and this is why I want to do this job, then that's the key thing. If you can show those things, then you're on a really good sort of path, because that's what firms are really looking for. And if you on the other hand, if you don't have a good reason for why you want to work at this company, I think, well, you don't know why you want to work here, so I don't know why I would hire you. It really is kind of that straightforward. You have to have a good answer for that, basically. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But again, it's actually not very difficult. It's yeah, you just kind of have to put in a bit of time and kind of think about it, and have some questions, some answers written out. So you should be able to say, you know, this is why I want to work at your company, and you should just know it kind of off by heart, you know, like sort of 3 or 4 points. So this is why I want to work here. And if I can see that, then I'll think, okay, this person really cares. They're really interested. Okay, I have given you a bit of advice here. This is if you want to sort of really impress an interviewer, if you want to really impress someone at interview, and this works throughout your entire career, and not just as an accountant, but as any role. If you read a company's financial statements or read a business's financial statements beforehand, if you read about what it is that they're doing, people are always impressed. I guarantee you that. And that is true if you are a senior manager, or that is true if you are just coming as an apprentice straight out of school. People absolutely love it because it shows that you've gone above and beyond to really understand what it is that this business is doing right now. And you know, the people who put together companies' annual reports spend essentially the entire year doing it, but no one or hardly anyone ever reads it. So if you go and read it, you have shown that you are, you know, in the top 1% of people. So that's a really good bit of advice. Obviously, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But yeah, if you're applying for a company and you type in, you know, Grant Thornton annual report, you can find them all online. And yeah, you just read through that for sort of 20 minutes, and you can find out really interesting stuff. Which if you then tell your interviewer you've read it, they'll go, wow, okay, you know, that's really good. And that's a promise. Okay, yeah, just a couple of final points. So signpost your answers effectively. That means that if you get asked a question, you want to say, you know, so this is, if someone says to you, why do you want this job? What I mean by signpost is, and you say, well, the first reason why I want this job is because I think I'm a really good cultural fit. The second reason I want this job is because, the third reason I want this job is because, you know, so you kind of, you signpost it and you just speak really clearly and logically. And if people can kind of understand your thinking, signposting really helps with that. Finally, wanting to be well paid is not a good reason for going for a job unless the job description actually says money motivated. Most jobs that you will go for in professional services anyway will pay quite well. So just saying, oh yeah, I want to get paid lots of money is not a good reason, because that tells me as an interviewer that as soon as you get offered more money somewhere else, you'll leave. And obviously I don't want that, because that's annoying for me. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Okay, step 4, a digital assessment center. So again, sort of most of the same things apply as the interview sort of things that we were saying online. Sorry, a moment ago. So yeah, do your research about the company. You know, really sort of dig into the business, dig into sort of what it is they're interested in, what makes them tick, and what sort of pays the bills for them. Practice your answers, so you can practice with either with people at school, or you can practice kind of, I don't know, with your parents or with anyone else who you might know who you know, has a bit of an understanding of how this process works maybe. And they can help you, you know, to kind of to speak clearly, to speak eloquently in those kind of situations. Practice case studies. Case studies are really great. I've not got a huge amount of time, so I won't go too much into case studies right now. But if you sort of search practice case studies on Google, there's loads of kind of really interesting things. And all case studies, all I mean by that is sort of what will often happen in an assessment center is you'll be given a company, and you'll be asked some questions about that company. So it'll say, you know, so here's a page of information about this company. This company is looking to expand into France or something. They're currently a UK company. What would be the benefits and costs of doing that? And all you need to do is just, from the data you've been given about the business, you need to make some kind of some judgments on what would be good and what would be bad about that. So obviously, if they have no one in the company who speaks French right now, then they're going to need to hire someone who speaks French if they want to move into France, right? Or they need to, you know, bring in another company who can help them, who also speak French, you know, to help them translate or something like that. That's kind of what I mean. And there's tons of different things. I mean, like if you look at sort of McKinsey case studies, they're, you know, probably sort of the best ones. They're the most famous ones. You know, if you search them on YouTube, there's loads of people talking about how you can do case studies. And again, just a little bit of practice can go quite a long way there, because you need to structure your answers in a certain way, and it's not immediately natural for most people. But again, it's actually not very hard, and I think it's really fun. But then I am a bit nerdy. But yeah, arrive on time. Always arrive on time. Final interview doesn't really count in most cases. Once you've done an assessment center, you're generally not called back for a final interview. But again, just to be clear, sort of, you know, behave sort of in a way which is professional, by which I mean, don't sort of tell too many jokes. It's not normally a good idea to joke in a job interview unless you are getting on with someone really well, in which case, it's a judgment call. But generally, for you guys, I would say don't joke, don't kind of mess around in interviews at all, don't do any of that. Be very smartly dressed, and just kind of remember to speak. Something that people at your level often forget is people are often quite nervous, I find, when they come in for interviews. People are sort of the assessment centers for apprenticeship level roles, people are often quite nervous, so I would just say, just remember that you have to sort of say a bit and kind of get involved and not appear too sort of frightened, because obviously if you don't say anything, then we can't assess you in the assessment center, so it makes it a bit difficult. So yeah, just kind of try and relax, although I know that is easier said than done, obviously. Okay, step 6, receiving an offer. If you do get, obviously, if you pass through the assessment center and people like you, then you can receive an offer, and that is always a great day. I can still remember the day when I was sent my first contract. I can remember it exactly, and yeah, it's brilliant. It's exactly what you want. So yeah, just hopefully that's what happened to you guys. And then finally, there are sort of some company checks that you need to remember to do, but these are a formality. And again, if you just do them within sort of good time, then it shows that you're keen. Generally, once you've been offered a job, it won't normally be taken away unless there are very exceptional circumstances. But just sort of be sure, and just do everything within good time. And sort of when you're asked to do it, obviously it would be very silly if you missed out on that. And just finally, sort of as an important thing for you guys to remember, your interview never really finishes. Every day, I'm sure your teachers, I'm sure your parents, I'm sure everyone will tell you that every day that you're at work, you are presenting an image of yourself, which is, sort of the most professional and kind of the most sort of hardworking kind of person that you possibly can be. So obviously, just don't sort of get a job and then sort of completely forget everything that you've learned through the interview process. You need to remember to come in every day and sort of treat it like an interview and treat it like you're being assessed every day, because obviously you are. So yeah, I hope that is helpful. Obviously, it's a little bit tricky doing things sort of via this means. Obviously, I've been to you guys, I've been to your school before a few times, and I often really enjoy kind of interacting with the classes and stuff. So it's a bit of a shame that we're having to do it like this. But yeah, I hope that is helpful, and I hope that that you guys can kind of have a little bit of a head start on lots of other people who are obviously applying for jobs and stuff coming out of university. And if you're not at that point yet, I really hope that, as I said at the start, that you can start to put together a bit of a plan for what it is that you're going to do, what kind of job it is that you want to do, and how you're going to get there, because that really is key. Yeah, and I mean, if enough of you guys want me to come back and talk about how to put together a really good plan, that's fine. I can do that too. But yeah, just yeah, I hope it's been useful. I think we are now going to see if there are any questions.
Yep, thank you very much for that, Dominic. That was really, really useful. Does anyone have any questions? If so, you can put them in the chat bar on the right-hand side and I can answer them on your behalf. So I'll wait for a little bit. Or if not, if you do think of anything later on, then you can email me and I can pass those on to Dominic and then
that's
back.
fine.
Yeah, is that cool? Thank you, Dominic. But yeah, does anyone have any questions? Don't be shy. Yeah, I don't think so at the moment. Like I said, if you have any that you think of later on, you can email me. But I think that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Yeah, as I say, I hope that was useful. If there are any further questions, then obviously feel free to, as you say, sort of get a hold of me indirectly. Very happy to help. Yeah, just I hope it was useful.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Thank you very much, guys, for attending as well.
Yeah. Thank you.